Round 2 of the NFL draft bracket. Who is the big winner of the draft? We will find out soon, but we're only on round 2. We'll get there. What I'm looking for is value picks, steals, fits, team needs. What I'm not looking for is reaches. I don't want to see any team reach for picks. That might result in a loss. Starting at the top, Dolphins and the Jets. Looking at the Dolphins draft, I see great picks there. I really like their entire draft. No reaches. Cordrea Tankersley and Vincent Taylor, and even as Isaiah Ford, are complete steals in my opinion. And even though they stayed away from the offense side of the ball, really, except for maybe the last pick and Asiata, the guard, I think they, even though they already had a really good defense, and then they made it even more scary. It's going to be a solid defense. So they did a good job in this draft. They did need linebackers. They got one in McMillan. Charles Harris can potentially play outside linebacker, but likely D-end. So I really like the Dolphins draft. And they're taking on the Jets. The Jets really like their first pick in Jamal Adams. I really like their first 4 picks, maybe 5 picks. But then there's maybe a couple, maybe 1 or 2 reaches or a guy I didn't have graded. So although the Jets had a great draft, I'm going with the Dolphins winning in round 2. I just really like their draft. Really no weak spots to it. Raiders taking on the Chargers. Raiders, top of their draft, Garyon Conley and Obi Melifonwu. Great DBs, good steal in Melifonwu. But after that, there's a couple hits and misses. David Sharp, solid offensive lineman. The two 7th rounders, the first 2 they took, guys that did not have graded. Elijah Hood, I really like that 7th round pick. And then looking at the Chargers, starting it off strong, Mike Williams, my number 1 wide receiver, Forrest Lamp, who some thought would go in the first, so maybe a little bit of a steal. But Dan Feeney in the 3rd, I didn't think he gets out of the 2nd. He got out of the 2nd. Chargers got him. Fills a big need. They really upgraded that offense, put them back in possible contention for the division. It's a tough division though. And then taking Desmond King in the 5th was a complete steal. I see steals, fits, and bigger needs filled by the Chargers here, even though the Raiders did have a good draft. That's why they're in the 2nd round. But I'm picking the Chargers here. Excellent draft for them. Ravens and the Browns. This is going to be a battle. I already know it. Ravens building that defense, making it even stronger than it already is. I really liked the 3 picks in a row. Tyus Bowser, Chris Wormley, Tim Williams. Tim Williams could be one of the steals of the draft. Could end up being their personal rookie of the year. Marlon Humphrey's got a lot of potential to him. Maybe a few picks early, but a good player than where I expected him. Illuminor in the 5th was a great pick as well. Would like for them to get a receiver. This is a great draft, and they really shouldn't get hurt for not reaching for a receiver, but they did need one pretty bad. I know, talking to fans in the past about the Ravens, they really wanted a receiver or 2, did not grab one. So that's the only really disappointing part, but I really like that draft. A lot of guys that can contribute and make their team better. And the Browns held the first overall pick, so hard to give them it was like a great grade on taking Myles Garrett, because that's what you expect. That's what they should do, but he is the best player in the draft. I mean, again, I think they had some big-time hits here with, I wasn't a fan of the Peppers pick, but getting Njoku, Kaiser, Howard Wilson. I was a fan of Howard Wilson. Roderick Johnson, the offensive lineman, there in the 5th. I thought he would go a round or 2 before that. Brantley is kind of wait and see. Zane Gonzalez, best kicker in the draft. They got him in the 7th. I really thought Zane might go as high as 4 or 5, because he's a very good kicker. And then Day's a running back in the 7th. Both of these very good drafts. I mean, this could be a finals matchup if it wasn't set up this way. But I got to go with the Browns. They really made their team better. I do not think they finished last in the league, which I guess that isn't that special. But they made themselves better. They made themselves better. Good picks. I really hope they go with Kaiser and really stick it out with him. I would like to see that. So Browns win. Ravens, excellent draft though. Texans versus the Colts. Starting with the Texans, Watson was my number 1 quarterback in the draft. Wasn't really a steal where they picked him, but the fact that he was the 3rd quarterback off the board is just fantastic. And Zach Cunningham and Deontay Foreman, really liked those picks, and Carlos Watkins was a complete steal. Maybe they drafted Deku to round 2 early, but no real weaknesses here. Did trade a future for Deshaun Watson, but talking about this draft, they really helped themselves and got a couple of steals. But another team that got a lot of steals was the Colts, starting off with Malik Hooker. Thought he would go much earlier than that. They get him at 15th overall. Quincy Wilson. Quincy Wilson comes with some risk, but they get him in round 2. I thought still would go round 1, even with a little bit of risk. And you look at Terrell Basham, solid pick. Banner and Mack, really like those 2 picks. And now the Grover Stewart pick, I'm not a fan of that. I thought he was a 7th round pick. They took him in the 4th. So maybe more steals for the Colts. But then 1 pick was a pretty big reach. This is a tough decision. Just looking at the top of the draft, I think the Colts getting my number 4 player in the draft and getting Quincy Wilson, a corner that can help him right away. And the Colts filling needs, they needed pretty much everything on defense, and on offense, they needed an offensive lineman and a running back. They got 2 solid players in that position. So I'm going to go with the Colts. It's very, very close, though. Another good matchup. Really, all these teams in the second round won the draft. They all did very well. Was a good draft class, so you expect most teams to do well, and these teams in the second round of this bracket did very well for the most part. So Colts win that. Cowboys and the Eagles is next. Cowboys with a couple hits early. Jordan Lewis is a question mark. Xavier Rhodes and Marquez White was they're also hits. Noah Brown was a hit. Ryan Switzer, good player. Thought it was a little early. Joey Ivey I did not have graded, and then last pick was around where he should have been. It was almost the last pick of the draft, getting close to that. So overall, good draft. Couple hits early. Maybe a little bit of reach, one or 2 reaches, I would say. And they're taking on the Eagles, hometown Eagles. Eagles got, they also got a couple hits. Derek Barnett, Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas. Sidney Jones is somewhat of a question mark, I guess you could say, but he's supposed to be good to go. Didn't have any previous injuries before his pro day one. I think it was just a freak thing, not like he tore his ACL or anything. So I think he's going to be good to go. Mac Hollins in the 4th, like that pick, could open things up. And a couple of guys that fit their team. I think they also had a reach in Nathan Gary. The Cowboys had a reach in there too. Elijah Qualls was a steal in the 6th, though. I'm gonna go with the Eagles on this one. I think the Eagles filled more needs here. I mean, both teams filled a lot of needs, but I think the Eagles got like instant starters with their first 3, maybe 4 picks. And the Cowboys are right there with them. But I really like this Eagles draft. They needed corners very bad. They didn't reach for one in the 1st. I thought they would have. The only one that was worthy of that pick was Latimer. He was gone. So they get a solid edge rusher in Barnett, my 5th best player in the draft, and then get 2 solid corners in the 2nd and 3rd. I really like the Eagles draft. Cowboys was good as well, but Eagles win this round. Cardinals versus the Rams. Starting with the Cardinals. Starting off good. Budda Baker, really liked that pick. Chad Williams was a little bit of a reach, but then made up for it with Dorian Johnson. I thought he was a guard that can possibly start day 1. And then TJ Logan, I think he fits the team very well in the 5th round, solid pick. And then looking at the Los Angeles Rams, Gerald Everett at the top. Maybe a few picks too early, but good player, can fit. Cooper Kupp, some thought he might go 2nd. He went 3rd. John Johnson, 3rd round safety that I really like. Josh Reynolds in the 4th, good pick. Ibuka may have been maybe a round too early, but athletic guy, has a ton of potential. The Rams have room to work with guys with potential. And Tanzel Smart and Ewan Price, really like those picks. Really like those picks. Those are steals. Tanzel Smart I thought was 4th, maybe 5th at the latest. Ewan Price, same thing. Thought maybe gone by 5, and they get those guys in the 6th and 7th round. I really like those picks. Both teams had some big hits, had some big misses. I think the Rams filled the most needs, and they're getting ready for the future. Could be a really good football team in maybe 2-3 years. So I'm going to go with the Rams there over the Cardinals, but again, close. Packers and Vikings, NFC North battle. We'll start with the Packers. Again, I really like the Packers' first 3 picks. I think for day 2, I thought they were the winners of the draft. Vikings were also considered up there too. I think I had the Packers, the Vikings, and maybe it was the Colts or the Broncos. Those teams were up there for the Saints. That's right, the Saints. Those teams were up there for winners of day 2. So Packers first 3 picks, great. Then I saw some reaches. Their first pick in the 4th round, Vince Beagle. I thought that was a little early. I thought maybe even 2 rounds early, maybe 1 round. Jamal Williams, I really liked that pick, but then again with the reach, Yancey I thought was undrafted, maybe 7th round. They took him in the 5th. I liked the Aaron Jones pick, and then pretty much after that, a couple of reaches. Dupre was one of the biggest steals in the draft, actually, but I was just surprised they took Yancey in the 5th over Dupre. I remember thinking they got to go Dupre here, and they did not, but they ended up getting him anyways. Developmental guy, but he's a good player. So after those first 3 picks, looking great, but took a little bit of a slide after that. After looking at my board and seeing how it translates, then the Vikings get probably the steal of the draft in Dalvin Cook, 9th overall player at 41st. They fill needs with Pat Elflein and Jaleel Johnson. Ben Gideon may have been a reach. And then they fill some more needs with another offensive lineman, Isadora, who I had a 3rd, 4th round. They get him in the 5th. Bucky Hodges, I had as my number 4 tight end in the draft. They get him in the 6th round. And then Elijah Lee was another steal. I actually had him graded better than Gideon, who they got in the 4th, and they got Elijah Lee in the 7th. And I thought he was a fit there. Tried to replace Chad Greenway there. So Packers versus the Vikings early on in the draft, very, very close. Packers got 3 guys that will probably start, or that could start. Vikings got only 2, but Dalvin Cook in a big-time steal, so it's pretty even early. But then I think the Vikings beat them on day 3 of the draft completely, so I'm going to go with the Vikings on this one. Packers did have a good draft, and I liked how they addressed the defense. They're a defense away from getting back to the Super Bowl. I know a lot of defensive players they probably need, but they did that in the draft. So good draft, but I got to go with the Vikings here. And then the last second-round matchup, Bucs versus the Saints. Let's start with the Bucs here. O.J. Howard was a pretty good steal in the 1st round. Then Justin Evans in the 2nd. I believe I had him grabbing Justin Evans at one point in the 2nd in a mock, so I saw a fit there. Does need to work on tackling. No, Chris Godwin in the 3rd. Wasn't really a need, but too good to pass. Some thought maybe 2nd. I thought early 3rd. It was a good value pick. Beckwith in the 3rd. He's a good player. Thought maybe 4th. Not too much of a reach. Really like Jerry McNichols. That was a good steal. Really fits the team. Could end up being something special, I think. So good draft for the Bucs there. And on to the Saints, who I know had a good draft as well. First, really 4 picks were great. Really looking at Latimer, but then Marcus Williams and Alvin Kamara. Really like those guys. Very good steals in my opinion. The other 2 third-rounders, maybe a round too early. So this is very, very tough because my favorite picks combining the both teams are probably Alvin Kamara, then Marcus Williams, then Jerry McNichols. So the top 2 would be with the Saints. The Saints may have had a reach or more in there, but it's tough to go with. I think the Saints may have filled more needs starting off with Marshawn Latimer, even though I really like that O.J. Howard pick. It's up in the air. Both teams get A drafts, but I'm gonna go with the Saints. The Alvin Kamara, Marcus Williams, both those picks are up there for my favorite picks in the entire draft. Saints get 2 out of those, so I really like those picks. Help the team. Kamara, maybe not right away, but I know he's going to be a good football player. I know he's going to be a good running back. So I'm going to go with the Saints win that. It is very close. But we got the Dolphins versus the Chargers in the next round in the next video, as well as the Browns versus the Colts, the Eagles versus the Rams, and the Vikings versus the Saints. Stay tuned for that video. That will be the next one tomorrow. Please like, subscribe, stay tuned for more, and goodbye.